Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first virtual meeting webinar in our Erasmus KA210 project called Young Eco-Journalist for Sustainable Future. So I'm Alenka Lahkalan, and I'm project coordinator at our school. We are School Center Celje, secondary school for civil engineering and environmental protection from Slovenia. I'm happy to see you all, young and also mentors who care about our environment and who will listen our webinar today. And hello, Turkey, hello, Spain, hello, Germany, and of course, hello, Miss Lucka Kajfež Bogataj, who is our guest today. Today, we will talk about energy and climate change. And because of that, I'm honored that I can present our very famous guest, climatologist, Lucka. Hello again.
Hello, everybody.
First, I would like to present and tell you a few words about our guest. Lucka is full-time professor and teaches at the Faculty of Biotechnology and also lectures at the Faculty of Mathematics and Physics and at the Faculty of Architecture, and also heads the Center of Biometeorology and the Faculty of Biotechnology. I hope I read everything right. She is also head of the Department of Agrometeorology and a member of the Intergovernmental Forum of Climate Change in Geneva. So she participates in many projects, national and international. In Slovenia, she is considered one of the pioneers in researching the impact of climate change, especially its impact on growth and agricultural production. Her works include hundreds of popular and professional articles and 3 books for young people. So if you will have time, you can find the books from our Lucka. She is also a co-recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize from 2007. So congratulations also from our side. And I think now, hello again and welcome on our webinar about climate change. And now I give the word to our guest. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you so much for this nice introduction. I feel a bit embarrassed by all you said, but yes, one of my mission is actually also to do outreach, especially when it goes to the young generation who is so much vulnerable to climate change, but at the same time, it's sort of put all our hopes to young generation that we could make a change, not just in climate change problems, but also in environment as a whole. And energy is somehow really extremely important parameter in this fight. So let me now share the screen and go to my presentation. So I hope you can see it now, and I will go to the, like this. Okay, so you see my very simple title of the presentation. It's about climate change and where do we stand. So what is really happening, and of course, I will focus on energy as I promised, because energy is, as I said, crucially important. So my lecture has 2 parts. First part will be more or less concentrated on climate change facts, and the second one more on mitigation of climate change, so to speak, about energy. So let me start with this first part, and this is the very new finding, not very surprising, but just last week it became clear it's not the end of the year. we are still in November, but regarding all what happened this year before now, we will witness the most hottest year in the record. It's not just from 1940, as you see on this graph, but actually until the meteorological measurements are being done. So at least in 200 years. So this is worrying, and we can also see that this increase is almost one or more than 1.5 degrees from normal. And this is a huge number because we are talking about global numbers. And this means that we are already in a very dangerous position because we think that until 1.5 degrees Celsius, these changes can be managed or are not so dangerous, but beyond that, who knows? And this is what is extremely worrying. The next problem we have that we live in Europe and the Northern Hemisphere. It's a very nice place to live, but unfortunately, our continent is the fastest warming continent on the planet. So when you see parts of Spain, for instance, when you see some parts of Norway, but also Turkey and Slovenia and Germany, we can see that we are warming above the average. So warming in countries like ours is 2.5 more than normal. That's why this is really crucial that Europe also takes a lead, because maybe in Greece or maybe in Ireland, they are more under the influence of the ocean. So they are not warming so fast. But on the continent, we can see that this rate of warming is really huge. Okay, I said I will talk about energy. So when we talk about climate change, actually, many people say that this is not an environmental problem, that climate change is energy problem. And why? So I try to illustrate the development of humans, and we are now, we can call ourselves technological people, but when we talk about Europe and Turkey, we are not poor countries. We must be honest, our living standard is high. And we use 1 gigajoule per energy per day. If we compare our generation to our fathers or grandfathers, we can see that they used much less energy, not to mention people before Industrial Revolution. And also we can see how we use this energy. So this, for instance, yellow part on the top, this is our mobility. We are using cars and planes and everything. And of course, we need today much more energy than in the previous years. Extremely important is also when we talk about our food and also how much things we buy. We can also see that we are a generation that buy things that we want to have, while generations back, they usually bought in the stores what they needed. But we somehow lost control between what we really need and what we want to have. So yes, more energy. Also, our houses, our flats are warmer, bigger. So yes, again, more energy. And on the bottom line is our stomach. And even when we talk about food that we eat, it's more energy because we freeze food, we transport food, and we unfortunately also waste food. So our lifestyle is quite different. So one of the problems is not so much energy itself, but how do we live? And our lifestyle is quite luxurious. The second problem is what kind of energy we use to support our lifestyle. This is another problem. And okay, I can say simply, this energy is wrong. Because you can see that globally, we still depend on coal, on oil, yellow, on red natural gas, Okay, we also use some renewables, we use some nuclear energy, but this proportion is very small. So majority of global energy consumption is still fossil fuels. Okay, you can see on the right, this upper part, nuclear energy is not growing, is fairly constant, but yes, renewables, they are exponentially growing. So this is good news, but still it is too slow. And a lot of countries in the world, they don't care about renewables. In Europe, yes, we do care, but not everybody. So this is huge problem. And the third problem is how we actually use this energy. And we must admit that we are using fossil fuels very primitive. What do I mean by primitive? We burn it. So we are not very different than people in the caves. When they felt cold, they put something on fire. And we burn coal, and we burn oil, and we burn natural gas. So what is the result when you burn something? Of course, when you burn organic matter, you have three products: CO2, water vapor, and air pollution. I will not talk about air pollution, but it is still a huge energy problem. But you can see how CO2 emissions are also growing. So we should not be surprised that CO2 in the atmosphere is getting higher and higher every year. And unfortunately, this is not a linear growth. These curves, if you remember a bit of mathematics, this is more like exponential curve, not linear, which means that this will be very hard to stop. So yes, we are emitting this CO2 when we burn fossil fuels, but we are also emitting fossil fuels, not so much in Europe, but if you look at the Brasilia, if you look at the equatorial parts, when they produce a lot of biofuels, a lot of food also for Europe, they deforestate. So they cut forest and change this forest into agricultural land. And in that case, also CO2 comes from soil. So when we talk about our emissions, we have emissions when we burn fossil fuels, but we also have quite a millions of tons of CO2 coming from the soil when we change land use. So this is purely human. This is not something that is natural. And where does this CO2 go? This is extremely important that you remember. Half of the CO2 stays in the atmosphere, and this half really makes climate change. But we are very lucky that not all CO2 stays in the atmosphere, but just half, because other half is distributed, partly goes into vegetation. We all know what photosynthesis is. Photosynthesis uses CO2. This is great. This is ecosystem service. But unfortunately, a quarter of our emissions also go into the ocean. And this might be a sooner problem, because when you put CO2 into the water, water gets acid. So pH drops, and acidity and ocean acidification is also possible, huge problem in the future. But right now, we have problems with this half that stays in the atmosphere for a very, very long time. And when it stays in the atmosphere, it changes Earth's energy balance. So we can clearly see, because we have a lot of information from geologists from our past, we can know for thousands of years before today how atmosphere really was then. And we can clearly see that, yes, CO2 concentration did vary. Why? How? Because there are many processes on the planet before humans appeared, like ice ages. But all these changes took 200 years. So very long, or even thousands of years. But what we did since Industrial Revolution, we increased this CO2 in a very, very short time. So suddenly, because we use so much fossil fuels, there's a 50% of CO2 more in the atmosphere. And this is the root cause why it's getting warmer, why energy balances change, because CO2 is a greenhouse gas, and greenhouse effect is something that is very clear in physics. It's not something new, but new is that it is happening right now and here. And because of the more energy that is now emitted also by CO2, the Earth gets warmer. And this warming, you can see here, it's really pronounced in Europe. I did mention that, but it's everywhere. So we are all in the same boat. Maybe in some places, like in Pacific Ocean, it is getting warmer a bit slower, but sooner or later, they will catch up because water has a bigger heat capacity. Yes, and you can see that in the Arctic areas, we have already reached the warming that is more than 4 degrees. So it's quite dangerous what is going on. That's why we hear about loss of the sea ice, and we can see these sad pictures of polar bears and things like that. So yes, it is really extreme events going on in Arctics. But climate is more than just temperature. We have to be aware of the water as well. But when we talk about water, we can see a different picture. We are not in the same boat because there are a lot of countries that in the same time a temperature goes up, they are getting drier. Spain, Turkey, Slovenia, Germany. Yes, we are all countries where we should be really worried about water. Well, in Scandinavia, if you look at England or Sweden or Finland, they don't have such a problem. Also, Russia, not so much. But we are all in Europe quite impacted by more frequent droughts, and this means a lot of troubles for agriculture. But of course, when we talk about drought, we should not forget about extreme rainfall, like what happened in Valencia in Spain. There was a very dry period, but then in one day or half a day, catastrophe happened because rain arrived. So irregular precipitation pattern is something that we should be more worried than temperature itself. Well, Slovenia has very little sea, but all other countries present here, you have a lot of coasts, and one of the consequences of climate change is also the sea level is rising. Now it's rising very fast, almost 4 millimeters per year in Slovenia. For instance, we in Adriatic Sea, our increase is 5 millimeters per year because it's a small sea. And of course, what does that mean for the cities that are there? And please remember that half of the world's largest cities are situated on the coast. In Turkey, in Germany, and in Italy, also, of course, in Spain. And all these cities are being threatened by sea level rise because it's not like some people think that, well, we will be threatened when water arrives to my house and I will be flooded. No. All these cities will have problems before that because water can intrude into the drinking water, in the soil water. The soil can get salty. So, and also all these extreme events are flooding the city even today. So yeah, there are a lot of unpleasant things going on, and that is a motivation why we should really care about climate change. And when I mentioned Valencia region, but it happened in Germany, it happened in US, everywhere in the world, we can see more and more these extremes. For instance, before you were born, most of you students, we maybe had 200 such events per year. But now the number has increased to 800. So actually every day we have 2 such events in average. When people lose homes, they lose quality of life, they lose hope in many things. And this is horrible. And it's not just about dead people. It's about people that are left with problems for a long, long time. So what about future? The future will bring I'm afraid, even more warming. But this warming we still can control it. It depends on our energy policy. Well, we can see these futures. Please don't use future in the singular. I always use it in plural because there are many futures possible and some of them are not very nice. For instance, if we don't do anything and we don't do any energy transition in which we just keep on burning fossil fuels, we can reach extremely high concentration of CO2. Now it's about 400, but it can be 1000 ppm, which is the unit. But such a concentration would mean 5 degrees increase in temperature. But if we are smart and we live with the green transition and we really imply more knowledge, more energy efficiency, as you will see later, we can still reach maybe concentration around 400, 450 ppm, which means that increased warming globally will not go more than 2 degrees. We already have 1.5, unfortunately, but still future is in our hands. So don't forget, don't lose hope. Don't say nothing can be done, because a lot of things can be done. But this is what climatologists do. This is what I do as a scientist. We know how to calculate the temperature increase, but also we are more and more aware what the consequences of such an increase will be. So we are talking sometimes about scenarios, and you can see now the worst case of them all. This is on this picture, and the best case of all. So this is the huge difference. So if we really take care of our planet, we can still prevent a very dangerous increase of temperature, but Arctics will still be warmer about 4 degrees. But majority of Europe and Turkey, we can stay within 2 degrees. But if we don't do anything, then temperature and the warming will just go up, up, up. But this means for some places in Northern Hemisphere, the temperature increase more than 7 or even 10 degrees. And really nobody knows what that would mean for people, for animals, for ecosystems. It's beyond our imagination, but we can pretty surely know that it won't be a pleasant world to live in. So there is a important motivation why we should mitigate climate change. I do apologize, this is in Slovene, but this is, for instance, the left panel is winter condition, the right panel is summer. This is temperature and this precipitation. And we can see that summer consequences of climate change for a majority of countries we are now joining this webinar will be extreme warming up to 4 degrees and precipitation problems less 15 to 20% less precipitation up to practically Denmark. So Germany, yes, Spain, yes, Turkey, yes, Slovenia, yes, we will all be really, we will have problems with agriculture, with tourism, with forests. So this is not the best scenario, but this is not the worst. I'm afraid this is somehow the scenario that we are going right now, because decision makers don't see how urgent it is to change energy policy and also other policies as well. So what should be our worries? And our worries, we can see, are connected to food, are connected to water, to extremes, to ecosystems, and also to the health. You're young people, and probably you don't feel any problems when it's getting hot or when the weather is changing, but elderly people, they really have already problems, and a lot of elder people die in Spain, in France, and especially in the Mediterranean countries. It's simply too hot. And this is something that we are not really don't know how to cope. So what does that mean in general? And it means that there will be problems with the displacement of people. People will go away because with the sea level rise, with the problems with water, you just become a climate change migrant. But migration is something that increases poverty, and this is something that we would not like to become. So this is what actually worries me in Europe the most, because European countries are not ready for climate change migration, but it will be there. It's almost certain, but a lot of people say there will not happen, something, a miracle will happen, and we will live like we live today. No, it will not, unfortunately. So I know that Turkey is involved a lot in these problems with migration, but it's the European problem, and we should really make plans how to deal with that problem, because walls and armies, and this is just political gibberish. It will not stop anybody. So let me talk about energy. We all know that we will have to deal with climate change, and right now we can see that the top 6 emitters of greenhouse gases are here on this picture. Is China, is US, India, but also Europe, Russia, and Japan. So it is why I'm showing you this, because right now you are maybe aware that in Azerbaijan there are talks about climate change mitigation, and there are politicians that are trying to actually establish some radical changes, and many of people are pointing at China and pointing at US, like you countries have the most responsibility, which is true. But looking from historical perspective, if you look at the 60s, you can see that China was not to blame for the beginning of climate change. China is a problem since year 2000, but before that, US was a problem, but also Europe was a problem. So we should not just look at the last year, we should look at the history a bit, because sometimes it can be misleading just analyzing the last year. So yes, they are big players, and we just can hope that there will be some agreement in Azerbaijan in next 14 days. Maybe you should follow that just to get a feeling what is going on, and this is really connected to the future. Okay, so what should we do? Should we just watch and be without power? I guess not. So there are 2 actions that are crucial to every country, every region, but also actually to every family, because this is not something that is going on without us. And I guess 2 actions are crucial. One is, of course, we have to mitigate climate change. We have to use less energy, use more efficiently energy, and use different kind of energy, to be very short. But at the same time, we also have to adapt, because climate change is here. It's already hot. We already have floods. We already have problems. So we should act also in that direction. We are very lucky that there are some actions that are actually both. You mitigate climate change, at the same time you contribute to adaptation, and for sure education and more knowledge is something like that. But it's a lot of things that we can do when we conserve energy, and a lot of solutions are also connected to the urban environment. So cities are very important place where we should start changes, especially big cities like in Germany or in Turkey. We have huge cities. In Slovenia, our cities are small to compare to yours, and also in Spain. Big cities are really important when we take new decisions. So mitigation, it's all connected to energy in one or another way. If you go to the street and ask people how to mitigate climate change, I believe in Slovenia, at least the most common answer will be, yeah, we should use renewable energy, we should use solar energy, we should use hydro energy or whatever. But it's not the most important. Much more important is energy efficiency. So the most research and money and political will should use how to use more efficient energy. And then at the second, when we solve that problem, then we must think about switching the energy. But some people do the wrong order in the way. But we should also improve carbon sinks. So when we plant forests, so we also put out CO2 of the atmosphere. So carbon sinks improvement in agriculture is extremely important. So it's not just about engineers, it's also about farmers, it's also about forestry. And of course, we cannot do all these changes without at least a bit changing our lifestyle, our behavior. I mentioned at the beginning, we buy things we want to have. Why wouldn't we buy at least half of the year only things we really need? And start to think about, is material growth really makes us more happy? So yes, that's a lot of things, but let's concentrate a bit on energy. This is a very new report made by UNEP when they analyzed which sector, when we talk about energy, of course, has the biggest potential to change things. So they are not all our actions the same. The most important actions are in energy production, especially electricity production, because electricity is now produced from coal, from gas, from oil, of course, also from renewables. But energy, electricity production is something that can really change a lot. Amazingly, on the second place is agriculture. It's about how efficient agriculture is, what we do with our land, how we handle food waste, how we handle precision agriculture, and also forestry. So it's not just about energy. People dealing with energy should really go hand in hand also with other sectors like agriculture. Sometimes in Slovenia, they feel this is absolutely different sector, but everything is connected. Industry, also huge potential, because we know that a lot of industrial processes are old processes. They're not modern, and of course, old processes needed much more energy. And I mentioned cities, buildings, we all live in the buildings, and also insulating buildings, making buildings smarter has also a huge contribution. So when you're decision maker and when you want to start somewhere very soon, it's obviously electricity production, agriculture, and industry, because you cannot do everything in 1 year. So this is when you do some strategy, it's important to have such thinking. I did not mention waste, for instance. Waste is something that is not managed well. Even in the European Union, we have problems in some countries because there's not enough awareness and not enough care about waste, because waste is also a source of methane. I did not speak about methane yet. I will maybe mention it a bit later. But what I want to show here is not just that we are saving climate. We also have additional benefits, like air quality. You know that in winter, a lot of cities in Europe, you can hardly breathe because these cities, some are situated in the valleys. But also in the summer, air pollution is killing people, but you will have much cleaner air with mitigation. Employment, new jobs, for instance, and also security of supply. We all know that oil and gas is coming from Russia, is coming from Asia, so we don't have that much in Europe, and we are depending then on such countries which are politically not stable. So yes, that's a lot of synergies. And for instance, also when we plant forest, we improve biodiversity. So we have much more benefit than just climate change mitigation. Of course, there are also some trade-offs. Ideal solutions, unfortunately, do not exist. But anyway, it's important to know the synergies. So let me now briefly go through all that I mentioned already. So deforestation should be stopped, and also reforestation should be there. And it's a lot of do even in Europe. Planting trees is cheap and is very effective. And also our farmers should be aware that improvement management of agricultural soils are beneficial. And if we manage agriculture and deforestation, we can actually solve 20% of the problem. So it's not something that we should not bear in mind. Methane, I now mention methane because it's also a powerful greenhouse gas, and it comes from energy systems, it comes from livestock, from agriculture, but also from landfills. And there's no technological problem how to handle this. All technologies exist, but they are costly. They don't, a lot of people think it's not necessarily, but yes, it is possible. So reducing methane is just a matter of political and I would say decision makers will. If they want to do it, they can do it in a year. But of course, there are lobbies that are maybe, especially when we talk about livestock, there are a lot of people who actually think that we should eat meat, but we all know that meat is not very beneficial for our health. So I'm not pro-vegetarians, but you know, it's really important that we take care of our health, not just climate. And being healthy means eating less meat. So energy intensity, this is something that is still a problem, as I mentioned. We could get more product or service out of less energy. We can build more efficient cars, more efficient trucks, more efficient planes, buildings, appliances, and manufacturing processes. We all know that we buy bigger and faster cars, we buy heavy cars, but they are not energy efficient. And it's just a matter of decision, a fashion, and of course, taxes, because it could be really how we put a price on different things, it influence human behavior. And in energy intensity, getting more efficient is the largest, cheapest, fastest leverage on carbon emission. So yes, you're now probably aware what I really prefer, because we don't have much time. We could not wait for some technologies to appear. We should do what we know how to do it now, and energy efficiency is such. And energy efficiency is a process that is actually very complicated. It's not just about our car. It's also important how we extract, for instance, oil or gas, or how we build solar collectors or windmills. So there are many steps about energy efficiency, and I guess that we should bear in mind, many of you will become engineers, and this is something that engineers have to take care of, not to waste energy, because it's precious and it's usually comes with the problems. In transport, as I said, efficient cars, efficient trucks, buses, but it's not just about cars, it's all about how, which mode we are using. We should use public transport more, but also we should make our cities a bit urbanistically different, so that we don't have to travel to buy a kilo of bread across the city. That thing could be closer to where we live, and that would also reduce energy use in transport. So nothing new. You know, electrical cars may sound a good solution, but we have other problems in transport, like a lot of traffic in the cars not moving in the street because of a jam. You know, even if they are electric, there's still traffic jam. So electric car saves a little of the problem, not all at all. Buildings, they contribute a lot of energy, about 33%. And we could really improve walls, roofs, that we do not lose so much energy. But it's also about building orientation, shading, passive energy storage. So architects, urban planners should really take care about these things. So it's not just about engineers who are producing, I don't know, heating systems. But of course, lighting, refrigerators, computers, we use a lot of things in the building, and then they also can use too much energy. So nothing new actually, but we should really have a strategic plan. But of course, we should also influence decision makers, because we cannot change the world just because we are right. Industry also extremely important, and we should really look at those industries that are really polluters, like oil refining, plastics, fertilizers production, iron, steel, aluminum, cement, pulp and paper. So these should be in focus. Not all industries are equally important, but nothing new there. So again, improve the efficiency of motors or industrial processes. And there's a lot of technological solutions like on-site combined heat and power usage, and use less intensive materials. I always say we can sit really good on aluminum chair, but it's the same way we can sit on the wooden chair. So why not using wooden chair? Because wooden chair did not contribute much to emissions, while aluminum chair, this is a horrible, I guess, CO2 balance. So I don't know where you are sitting, what is your school like, but I would go that in schools, no aluminum chair should be allowed, because it's a message for students that wood is material then can replace energy intensive material. Electricity, very clear what should we use. I guess renewables are those that we should aim for. And it's not just the renewables like solar and wind. There's a geothermal energy that is very important, but also nuclear energy in some ways can be beneficial. So yes, we should really look at those options, not just one. Of course, there's no ideal solution. So if I just go through this very quickly, it would be nice that there would be less people on this planet, but you cannot achieve that because it's political and social sensitive. For instance, wind energy. We now in Slovenia have this problem because people don't want to have windmills in their back garden. Biofuels, it's not ideal solution because they need land, and we have then problems with food ecosystems. Photovoltaics, it's still expensive, and some people talk about that materials to make photovoltaics is toxic. Yeah, which is true, and God forbid that we have fires or things like that, including involving photovoltaics. Nuclear fission, we all know that we have problems with waste, nuclear waste, and then it could be used for military purposes. Nuclear fusion doesn't work yet. And also hydrogen is still without infrastructure, and even with the energy efficiency, there are some barriers like education, and people do not really understand how efficiency is important. So there's no ideal solution. But what does that mean, no ideal solution? Should we give up? No. When there's no ideal solution, it just means that we need more approaches. So we should be open to a different solution, not just advocate for one. Like in Slovenia lately, everybody just talking about nuclear energy and it will solve all the problems. Come on, it's better I don't comment. More than one solution. So this is something we should be able to have imagination, to have new ideas. But of course, to achieve that, you young people, but also we researchers, we need more money for research, for development. We have to understand the potential of different options and also limitations. So this is something that should be taught in the schools, even at the secondary level. and we should try to lower the cost, because cost is usually very, very important. And of course, the side effects I was mentioning, they should be also somehow reduced. So yeah, more approaches, more imagination, be open to idea, do the research, and try to really improve sustainable development, not just development in the way we are now. More knowledge and more energy literacy. This is something I urge you. You are young. Please do your homework in that way, because without energy literacy, you will be easily played by politicians or by industry or by social media. So this is the best investment in you you could do in school. So energy is so important and so much connected to the future. And of course, you can start today. You can start at school. I put here the title at home, but this is school is your second home anyway. So we all know that energy saving, from turning the lights on to the switching for energy with different appliances, how we keep temperature in our classes. We should not use too much climatization or air conditioning, and things concerning how we do our family life, how we wash our clothes, how many things we buy, how we monitor, for instance. I guess extremely important tip is to monitor your energy use in the school, in your home. This is not something abstract, because when you look at the meters, you will realize when you need more energy, do you really need it, or you could switch something off. So be intelligent. Don't think that the energy and the meters are for somebody else. It is for your own future. So it still goes to school. It's not a secret, I guess, how much energy school needs. And then you can make a plan in your school. Are these buildings efficient? Should we make a change? Could we do a change? So this is something that can be a good seminar, but it is a good investment in the future. Okay, my time is up, I guess. Yeah, 3 minutes more. So let me summarize what I said. I don't want to be to panic, but climate change is here, and it is dangerous, and unfortunately, it is going to get worse. So be prepared, and that's why every year matters, and every choice matters. So it's whatever you do now, it's better than you do now than in 10 years time. We as a society, we really have to change the way we produce, consume, and trade, because as I mentioned, a lot of things with consumerisms are not right, and buying more things don't make people happy. But it's also important that decision makers prepare money to invest in innovation and research, and in a way redesign economy. There are many economic models, like circular economy, that we could talk for hours. So it's not just our model. And yes, you, young people, you can really play an active role in addressing the climate crisis. Your imagination and your mind is something we are all counting on, especially when you propose some innovative solution. Don't be ashamed. There are no idea that is, at this time of crisis, redundant. And unfortunately, it's not just about school. It's not just about knowledge. You must also find a way that your voice will be heard. You should demand more climate action from your decision makers. So be active because this is something that the best investment in the future. Okay, so that's from my side, and I guess there may be some comments or some questions. I'm gladly prepared to answer. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucka, for this inspiring and comprehensive lecture. I think all young people, I hope, get some motivation for working, because I don't know if you hear me before that our project is Name Young Eco-Journalist for Sustainable Future. So we will work on that, I hope, together, all 4 countries, and I hope we will be successful like you in the end.
Definitely, because you join forces, and one person cannot change much, but a group, even small group, has much larger power.
Yeah, I believe. So we said we can, young people, students, you have 5 minutes. If you have some questions, you can write it in the chat box, and Miss Lucka will answer if she could, of course. So please take a few minutes for your questions, and we hear in a few minutes again.
Okay.
Our students have one questions, but for Lucka in Slovene.
Dobro. Gospa Lucka, zdaj omenili ste, da je jedrska energija zgolj ena od možnih rešitev za Slovenijo. Zdaj me zanima mogoče, kakšno je vaše mišljenje, kakšne so še druge rešitve energetske za Slovenijo. Hvala.
Yeah. This question is about nuclear energy, yes, and of course it's not the only option. One of the problems is that for our country, which is relatively small, it will take at least 20 years before, even if we decide now to actually invest in such a type of investment. So our nuclear energy will not be, new nuclear energy will not be available till 2050 or 2060. And at that point, it will be too late, because the majority of action, the majority of decarbonization must be done till 2035 or maximum 2040. So with that in mind, the only solution for Slovenia is, of course, energy efficiency, and nobody is doing that, because systematically, of course, because when we compare, for instance, our in energy intensity with Germany, they are German students, so we need, for instance, about 40% more energy than Germans to produce benefit of 1 million of euros, for instance. So we are using, and this is also that's problem with our other economic evaluations. So energy efficiency for sure. Then it's also one of opportunity that I see with a small country, because we cannot totally compare to Germany or to Turkey. We are 2 millions. That would be really the improved role of European market for electricity. So if that relations would be fair, we could easily buy extra energy that we need on the European level. But we don't trust European Union. This is funny. But this European Union was exactly built for that we could import electricity when it's needed. So we don't trust European Union. That is the bottom line we should be also talking about. And also, I guess that one of our major problems looking at emissions is transport. But electricity cannot be replacement for what we are observing on roads like trucks. Trucks will never be electric. Not to mention that we are not investing in the rail and public transport. So I would summarize energy efficiency, different structure of our industry, which is sometimes really not appropriate. We can talk about that in detail maybe later. Also trust the European Union that the energy market will be fair. And of course, hydropower would be something that we should make a bit use of, because we don't, we just said that some rivers are untouchable. In my view, Mura is touchable, not untouchable. But, you know, there are other solutions.
Thank you. Anyone else, maybe directly, because we recognize that we don't have a chat box. So directly, if students can ask.
Okay, we have a question.
Yes, please.
Hello, Ms. Bagotaj. My question is, if China consumes the most energy with 31% of the world consumption, why isn't Asia the fastest warming continent and Europe is?
Yeah, of course, the problem with China is, of course, it's a bigger polluter. If we say stop here, but China has huge emissions because in China, they produce things for us. We in Europe, in Turkey, we buy Chinese computers, Chinese textile, Chinese shoes, or not to mention Chinese telephones and so on. So actually, then we should not just look at the territorial emissions, but at consumption emissions. So when we consume actually Chinese things in shops, or Chinese food even, that means that part of China pollution is our pollution. And this is the problem with climate change negotiations, because China, they say exactly that. You should not blame us because we are producing things for you. And in Europe, we sometimes, you know, like hide our eyes and say we don't want to hear that. That's why it's so complicated. You know, the global trade is complicated, and trade organization doesn't want to change anything. They just think that it should go on and on. So what to do to change this situation? Probably it's about taxes at borders, customs. So this is all unpleasant because we want to have cheap things from China. But actually, this cheap, low price comes at the price to our environment. And we feel climate change all over, not just in China. So economists, policymakers should really, not just engineers with energy efficiency, they should also find a way how to, with economic tools, try to solve climate crisis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Germany, Spain, do you have any questions? Germany not, Spain?
They are discussing it to give us 1 minute for this one.
We didn't hear you. Can you repeat?
Yes, can you listen to me?
Yes. Yes, you can ask.
They are discussing. If you give us just 1 more minute, please.
Try to speak in microphone.
Shall we ask one more questions?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Hello, Mrs. Lucka, and my question is, how can we educate others on the importance of reducing energy consumption?
Well, can you please repeat? I did not hear it too.
How can we educate others on the importance of reducing energy consumption?
Yeah, this is something that your generation is really lucky because you can use social media. You can use all the channels that you have to reach your friends, to reach not just your generation, but also others, and you can connect that. So I guess you should use these channels, but try to make it simple things, try to show some maybe examples of good practices. Because when people see that something is working, this is the best way of education. For instance, I remember in one school in my region, they put some solar panels on the roof of the school, and they have a big display in the classroom, so they could see every minute how much energy they are producing, but not just energy, how much money they are saving. And then when the parents came to school and they saw this, and the idea spread very quickly, because try to make examples of good practice, how you actually don't lose the quality of your life, but you can do something for environment. So use your imagination, but as I said, try to do that in a group and try to achieve chain reaction. Not if everybody talk to the 3 others and those 3 to others, in a few hours you can reach a lot of people with the clear messages. And I guess your teachers can help you also to find a very good web pages where there's truth written, because we have these problems with false facts and all the things that are also going on the web. So I would use channels, but also maybe it's important that you impact also your parents and even your grandparents, and they don't use Twitter and they don't use Facebook maybe. So maybe to organize some meetings, could be family meetings, but you should discuss these things as well. Because I guess this is something that your generation has much more insight than grandparents, but they are maybe more, can help you with the decisions and can help you maybe when you deal with the older decision makers. So that would be my advice.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have a question, so whenever you let us talk. Yeah, please. Hello, do you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Anybody? Yeah. So, electric cars would be a solution to the problem, but what do you think about the price of the electric cars? Why are they so expensive?
Alenka, did you understand? Could you help me?
No, can you please repeat again?
I can. Okay. So electric cars would be a solution to the problem, but what do you think about the price of the electric cars? Why are they so expensive? I don't know why they can.
Is there a problem?
There is no. Can you listen to us?
Se slišimo?
Ja, jaz
Tule so moji kolegi razumeli, da sprašuje, zakaj so električni avti tako dragi.
Okay, so electric cars, yeah. There's been a lot of advertising how good they are for environment, but actually there are no zero emission electric car. So electric cars actually have emissions because when you build this car, you need a lot of energy, and this is part of the answer to your question, a lot of materials. For instance, classical car needs 50 kilos of metals. Electric cars need 250 kilos of metals. And a lot of these metals are not from Europe. They are imported, so there's a price on these materials. And the second thing is, of course, that when you look at the prices get down when there's a huge production, when everybody buys the car. But so far, it's too early in the process to achieve such a huge market. So, and also, this is something that maybe people in Germany don't want to hear. But to be honest, all this frenzy about electric cars, how they will solve environment is as a business move. Because, you know, car factories, they want to sell more cars. And electric car was a good opportunity that every family gets third car. We already had 2 cars, but now we have electric car that will be used just to move around the city. So yeah, it's a business idea, and of course, to make business, the price has to be relatively high. But it's not just Germany. Also, I blame Musk for a lot of things, because when Americans propose something and try to invest in something, it's for sure for business, not for environment.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, otherwise, I would like to thank you, everyone who participated today, and especially our very special guest, Lucka. Thank you again, and I'm sure we see you soon again in our school. So thank you, Spain, thank you, Germany, thank you, Turkey, and thank you, Slovenia, of course. And I cannot wait, and I'm looking forward to what we can do together for environment. So see you, I think, tomorrow on second webinar.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Lucka, again for your time.
It was my pleasure. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.